started doing the motions to pay the bill, and then got into an argument with my mod about who gets to pay the bill. And they were just like going back and forth, and I'm just sitting there. The waitress is just like, I love it when they fight. And I was just sitting there like, I guess I'm not paying for my food.
That's it. It's like, well, I'm not going to make this a three-way argument. I'm just going to sit here politely.
Like, if you guys want to fight, be my guest. I was like counting my remaining budget to see what I could afford. But if you guys are going to fight over this, go nuts.
Yeah. No, stop. Oh. Like that Willy Wonka. No, stop, don't go.
Oh no. How dare you? But no one's telling me to stop hosting this podcast, apparently. So welcome to another episode of the Halcyon Frequency Podcast. This one is our 13th episode. Oh, that can't be good. And it's for the 10th of April, 2022. I'm Blind, and I'm hosting, and I'm joined by the lovely voice of Arch. How are you today?
I'm doing quite well. I got a nice sleep in. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Losing my voice. I streamed for 16 hours last night. Belannaer, you alive? How you doing?
I'm not sure about that, but I'm here.
Here, functioning?
Mostly, yes. I've been having actually kind of tummy problems for a while. It's been annoying. It's like only like a heartburn issue, I guess, but I'm not really sure what it is. And it's like not being like sick, but it's like just there to be annoying.
I feel like absolute crap. I don't know what I did last night, but while I was eating last night, because I made dinner really late at night, because I didn't finish stream until like about 1 o'clock in the morning my time, which is pretty late for me. And I kind of whipped up a really quick pot of pasta, chopped up some mushrooms and some broccoli and some asparagus and chucked it in a pan, fried it up, and ate dinner, and then went to bed. But while I was eating dinner, I swallowed something that was in there, and I don't know what was in it, and it like scratched my throat all the way down. So I have what feels like a scar in the back, from the back of my throat at the back of my mouth, all the way down like into my stomach, and I can feel it, and it hurts. And I'm just sitting here like going, like last night I was like, do I like call an ambulance? Like, what did I just do? No idea what I ate.
Yeah, that sounds pretty rough. I mean, it's probably nothing serious that goes away on its own after a while. But...
Oh, definitely. Like, I mean, I'm fine. It's like I kept checking if I was like gonna cough up blood or something.
You're not supposed...
but it's like having like a long cough or some kind of other throat issue, and then your throat gets rougher for a while.
Yeah.
That's kind of similar, I imagine.
You're not supposed to swallow the utensils.
I mean, unless you're a sword swallower, but that's a different story.
Even then...
It's actually funny you said that you said that you streamed late and it's 1 in the night for you. Because Arch and me were talking about actually you during Arch's stream, that... You give like a massive night owl vibes, but you are like totally like a day person.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm a morning person. Like I'm a here's the thing. I don't consider myself to be like an any time of the day person. Like I train myself to wake up at a time, and I wake up at that time. I never feel good when I get up. There's never a point where like I'm happy to get out of bed at any particular time. But if like I'm on the schedule of getting up at 6 a.m., I can do that, no problem. If I'm on the schedule of getting up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to work all night, I can do that too. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just funny how this time zones and everything work. Like currently us three are in a very different time zones, all of us.
Yeah, it's like 3:30 p.m. here. It's like 1 a.m. for you.
Yeah.
What time is it where Arch is at? I guess you have
to...
It's 10:25. Yep.
Huh. Yeah. No, it's pretty spread out.
Really early.
Spread out as you can be.
Silly early time for me.
10:30 is early?
I went to bed at like 5.
Fair.
Like,
I feel bad. I feel like I've made you get out of bed early to do a thing.
This is the latest we've gotten up to do them.
That is true. Yeah,
I work for a company in Singapore. Like, well, that's where the home base is. So for me, I'm basically offset 5 hours to my living zone. So yeah, I normally get to sleep around between 3 and 5 because I'm working until about 10.
Right.
Or,
right towards the end of my stream last night, an audience member who I haven't seen in a really long time popped in and was like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" I was like, "Oh, I haven't seen you in ages." He goes, "Yeah, I'm on a weird work schedule." He's like, "I live in Eastern US, but I work in UK time."
Yeah,
So it's
no,
like-
it happens. I actually missed out on an amazing job opportunity because they didn't want to do that. I was so annoyed. Yeah, it was... Basically, I was like, look... Oh, they sent a rejection saying, you know, like, it was all great and all, but you are outside of the hours and we'd rather find someone in this. And I replied back, like, this was sent at 3 a.m. my time. I replied back instantly saying, actually, you know, this is sort of my natural time at the moment. And yeah, I don't think they expected me to reply so quickly. You know, like, it was very definite proof that, no, I am normally up around this time. So we had more of a discussion there about it because they're like, oh, wow, he maybe is. But in the end, they decided that they did not, they didn't want to be responsible if, like, basically I tried to normalize my schedule or something, you know, didn't want me feeling forced, which I strongly disagree because I'm a night owl and waking up in the morning is a nightmare for me, but you get that.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because it's not any different from like any night jobber. Like you would anyways work those hours if you were working in your own country, if you have a night shift there.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Night shifts are something that I did for years, and there's a reason they pay you more to do them, but also, if it's your natural rhythm, then it's just preferred generally.
Well,
if I was working a normal job, I would totally want to work those hours as well. Like, I live in Eastern Europe, but I live in basically like Western Coast of US schedule.
Yeah.
I did afternoon shifts, which I have to say were my absolute favorite. We started work at 4 p.m. and we worked through till midnight. So, you know, you got a very good start to the day, but you'd still be up around midday. You know, you'd be around, and it always just felt absolutely great for me. And so 9 to 5s kind of always leave me feeling like, oh, this is so draining.
I think the issue that I have with like traditional hours and jobs is a strict start time. It's if it's an even remotely creative industry,
Yeah.
it makes perfect sense if you're working retail or a place that's open a set number of hours or any kind of sales position. Like, it makes sense that you'd work at a strict hours, but any kind of creativity based industry or non-customer relations job, it just it makes no sense to me as to why we can't move beyond the strict hourly start time.
I know, right? Like, my inspiration strikes for creativity at a specific time between 11 at night and 1 a.m. That is not going to work in any 9 to 5 job.
No, that'll be horrible for a 9 to 5 job. I think it's also just kind of like my ridiculous amounts of privilege talking that I can just be like, man, jobs starting us at a specific hour. So old-fashioned.
Yeah, I guess it's the same for all of us.
I think that there's definitely, you know, it depends the industry you're in and what's available to your area, because there's always going to be work that is going to require 9 to 5, and, you know, for some people, that's what it is, and you never want to be like, oh god, you're doing that? I couldn't do that. Like, I hate people that act like that. Like, when you tell them you do something and they're like, oh, I could never do that. So, yeah.
How do you know? Have you ever tried it? It's always my response.
I am not surprised that that's your response. I mean, that's a typical blind response to sort of, you know, it almost, like, when you said that then, I was almost, like, on my own defensive, being like, well, no, this is not about me.
Exactly. Well, I mean,
Depends
that
what
would
we're
have
trying.
been like that going into your mouth, coming out to the person who said it to you, but yeah. Typical blind response, always on the aggro.
Yeah, for me, it's always been super hard to fit into like a morning person schedule. The whole world rotates around those people, and it's been school, work, all of those have always been like death to me in the mornings. Because I actually have a irregular sleep-wake rhythm, which is actually like a proper sleep disorder. So my day rhythm is actually longer than 24, like normally. It's usually like 26, 77, and it kind of wiggles around back and forth as well. So it's really hard to fit into like any schedule.
There was many things I loved about night shift when I worked nights. I loved how peaceful it got at night, but the things that I hate about night shift, I think, outweigh the things that I like about it. Like going to the bank is almost impossible if you work full-time night shift around here, because they'll close at 4 and open at 8. It's like, well, so if you're off at 6, you have to wait 2 hours and then go to the bank, or you have to wake up really early at like 3 o'clock to like run to the bank. And that was never
that's
easy.
pretty much my life currently as well. Like I always need to make a special day to go to like bank or any of the like government places or anything, because they're open only like few hours at a specific time. So
I'm telling
you,
I
normally wake up when they close. So
4 till midnight shift, best shift out there.
I that's actually a shift I don't like. The afternoon shift. I think out of all the shifts that I've worked, I think like the 4 till midnight is my least favorite, and I have a very specific reason for this. And this is like going into work, not like a work from home situation, but work from home, like that would be totally fine. But in a going into work situation, most public transit is done by midnight, so it's real hard for me to get home in almost, unless I'm like walking distance or reasonable walking distance. But as a public transit person, that shift sucks.
Yeah, no, you did just remind me that I actually worked with a friend who drove me home every night. So, suddenly I realized that
like the night shift that I worked for years when I worked in fast food was 10 p.m. till 6 a.m., which then later got changed to 11 p.m. till 5 a.m. when I started cutting my shifts back. And 11 p.m. till 5 a.m. was fine, except for Sundays, because on Sundays, the first bus was at 7. So it's like, I can walk the hour-and-a-half walk home, or I can wait for the bus, which was fine when it wasn't raining and not winter. But because we have 2 seasons here, which is warm and then rain, it was not optimal most of the year.
Yeah, no, I remember how bad, like, our bus service was named after our town, and yet a bus came every 2 hours. If you missed if you missed the 7:57, you then had to get the 9:57, then the 11:57. And yeah, it's just every 2 hours we got a bus, and after, I think the last bus was 7:30.
I can one-up you by a little bit, but that's because I grew up in the middle of nowhere. The area of town that I grew up in, we had a community bus that would go by at 7:30 in the morning, 1:30 in the afternoon, and 8:30 at night. And
I can one-up that as well, since I lived in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I still live in the middle of nowhere, but my hometown didn't have buses at all. Like,
you guys have buses?
Cycle or something. Yeah. For these buses...
It was the way I got to my my first and second jobs in town. It was like they were both very part-time, so it was like I'd look at my shift start. It was like, all right, my shift starts at 4. All right, so I have to catch the 1:30 bus. So I was like, okay, my shift starts at 10. Okay, I got to get on the 7:30 bus. And if you were to drive into town, it was like a 10-minute drive. The bus would take an hour and a half from where I lived, because it would take every single back street, to the point where like I started riding my bike into town along the very precarious highway because it was faster. It
really makes you appreciate like good public transport, like when I'm traveling somewhere and they have like a million buses in the nighttime even or anything. It's like, this is amazing. Why can't we have this as well?
I mean, I was telling my my sister-in-law, or my sister-in-law to be, it's like, if you're ever downtown and you have a crappy night, because she lives in kind of an awkward place to get to via bus. It's like, if you're ever downtown and you're having a crappy night, just get on the specific night bus, and it will drive right past my apartment. You can crash on my sofa. It's just like, there are several buses that just like go right past my house that run every 30 minutes all day, all night.
Yeah, same with my like family's new place in Helsinki. It's like, yeah, I'd say every 5 minutes there's a bus. Just hop to the stop and you can go anywhere you want at any time. It's like, yeah, this would be nice at home as well.
There's like one... There's like 2 hours of the night on I think it's Sundays and Mondays where that bus only runs once an hour, but the rest of the time it's every 30 minutes, 24/7. But I think that that was a solid little bit of a starter conversation for a podcast, TM. I think we're going to go to a real quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about the games that we've been playing this week, and we're also going to talk about Arch's favorite clicker. So we will be back in a few seconds. Hang tight.
Hi there, podcast listeners. Wo Jess here. If you missed me on today's episode, never fear. Stop by on Twitch instead. You can find me at twitch.tv/wo_Jess, Monday through Thursday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Please enjoy the rest of this episode, and thank you for listening.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to this here episode of the Halcyon Frequency Podcast for April 10th, 2022. I'm Blind, and I'm joined by Belannaer and ArchPlaysStuff. We're here to talk about the games that we've been playing this week. And you know what? Since you've talked about it a lot, Belannaer, can you talk to me a little bit about Backpack Hero?
Sure. So Backpack Hero is a roguelike inventory management game, basically. It's on itch.io. They have a free demo basically there, but the demo is basically more development than a lot of early access games. Like I would say 90% early access games are not as good as this one is already in its current state. And they actually launched a Kickstarter yesterday for the full game. And I did like 3 days of it so far, even on the demo, because it was just that good. And it's a lot of inventory Tetris. You have a bunch of different shapes of items, weapons and armors and all kinds of gems and things that buff each other. And then they have like this kind of almost like cascading effects on each other. For example, there's a cleaver item that triggers every cleaver that's adjacent to it, and then there's another cleaver that triggers every cleaver that's diagonally from it, and then there's cleavers that buff cleavers, and chef hat that buffs cleavers in a specific row, and armors that give boost to every armor on the left or every armor on the right, and you like stack your inventory and Tetris these different pieces in there, and you get like it's just crazy builds of all kinds of items triggering off each other and buffing each other, and it's just fantastic. And it's a really cute pixel art. Music is great. Like everything about that demo is just so good.
So when you say it's just like a run-based inventory management game, how does it give you items? Like what is the actual like gameplay loop of this thing?
So if you played like Slay the Spire or similar games, this is kind of like that without any of the card systems. So yeah, people who don't like cards or card type of games, this is definitely for them more as well. So basically, you have a map of each little dungeon level, and you select where you go, and then you can see already like here's an enemy, and here's a shop, and here's a treasure, and so on. And you go through that, and then there's basically a staircase going down, and then you go through 3 levels, and then third level is as a boss, and there's basically 9 levels in the demo, so you fight 3 bosses during that. And it's basically a turn-based combat in a fight. You have by default you have 3 energy, and different weapons and different things cost energy to use, but there's also these mana orbs you can get. So spell items use mana instead of energy that you can also trigger. So you have like two different kinds of resources to use. And then there's other items also that trigger from like money, and there's a fish sword that triggers from fish, or gets buffied fish, and so on. And you have basically usually 1 to 3 enemies. I think 4 is maximum because they can summon some more. And then same way as in the Spiral or similar games, you can see what the enemy is going to do. Like this enemy is going to defend itself for a certain amount or attack for a certain amount, and you can then put some defense on yourself or try to kill the enemy, and that way just kill them. And then once you kill the enemies, you get some loot, and of course from the treasure rooms as well. And you usually can pick like a certain amount. It's usually 3 from a normal fight, and then bosses drop a relic, which is like this really high powerful enemy, not enemy, item that you can choose one of them.
Because like it's funny that you say that like some people don't like cards, right? Because I think that the number of people that dislike cards are vastly outnumbered by people who don't like inventory management. Like I don't like cards. I like inventory management. So I'm weird, I guess. But it's funny to see them trying to make a run-based game out of a mechanic that is widely regarded as hated. I don't know. I think it's an interesting challenge.
I have to admit that I am incredibly bad at inventory management games, but I still love them.
Yeah, I think the point is, or why this is better for an inventory management, is that because it's kind of the point of the game and not just a like part of the game. Like it's the focus, and there's also, because you get these like really fun builds going from doing the inventory management. It's not just I'm just trying to fit loot into my inventory.
Yeah, because it's more of like an effects puzzle than a just I need to put this sword in here somewhere.
Yeah, basically, puzzle is a very good like descriptor for it, for sure. And it's kind of interesting because there is a couple other games that have done a similar one. One that really comes to mind for me is that Mega Man Battle Network, one of them, or a couple of them, I'm not exactly sure which, had a similar like a power-up system. They had like this grid, and you had like Tetris pieces, and this gave like X amount of health more, this gave you more damage on a weapon, and so on. And then you kind of fit these Tetris blocks into that specific area, which you then were able to also increase the size of, same as in Backpack Hero, you're going to increase the size of your backpack. And it's basically a very similar system, but just taken into like a roguelike and even more complex. And I always wanted to see someone actually make that into a really fun game, because I actually like the Tetris piece power-up system in that game, and I was kind of trying to do that in a different game myself as well. That was programming, but failed. So it's nice to see that someone actually made a really amazing game out of that system.
That's interesting. I do need to try this. I think I told you before that I wanted to try it for the YouTube channel, and it's still on my to-do list. So I'm gonna get to that hopefully this weekend.
Yeah, I would highly recommend it, since it's it's absolutely free, the demo version on the itch.io, which I have spent like 40 hours playing already. And then definitely worth checking the Kickstarter as well, which seems to be doing really well. They already had over half the money collected today, which probably is even higher now.
I'm gonna take a turn here now and talk about A Memoir Blue. So A Memoir Blue is the most recent published title, title published by Annapurna Interactive, who is a publisher that I'm fond of, but now have mixed feelings on based on some reporting about some studios that were under their wing. That was published not too long ago by People Make Games. If you want, just go to the YouTube channel People Make Games and watch their most recent video. It's kind of stressing, but hopefully doesn't speak for all of the studios under their wing. But it's a short story, so I kind of have to, I can talk about what it, like the theme of it essentially. But I can't really say anything else about it because it is almost like an interactive film more than a game. The gameplay is you get like these scenes, these almost dioramas, and you interact with items on the dioramas in order by just like moving the mouse or tapping between them on a controller. You interact with them by selecting them, and then a little animation plays, and you get a little bit of animated story, and then you interact with the next item. There's some extremely light puzzles, and the game is about an hour to an hour and 20 minutes long. It's a very quick playthrough. It's on Steam for about $8 or on Game Pass. Easy recommendation if you have Game Pass, just download and play it. But the theme of the game essentially is you play as a silent protagonist girl, and she was a very heavily awarded swimmer. It's not clear whether or not it was like an Olympic swimmer or just like very successful swimmer. But like her apartment is covered in trophies and medals. And from the get-go in the first like 10 seconds of the game, it's very clear that this is like a mixed emotions thing in her life where she was always just awarded with piles of accolades from her swimming, but always was just like sad about it. And in the first about 10 to 15 seconds of the game, you find out pretty quickly it's because of disconnects between her and her successes and the relationship she had with her family and has with her family. And it's a story about her going through memories from childhood and her life in this gorgeous kind of blend of 3D animation and like hand animated drawings in the world. And so it's this beautiful combination of like these kind of two different styles of her as an adult in 3D and her as a child in hand-drawn animation, about this relationship between sport, her and her family. Just really touching and a lovely hour-long experience, which I can easily recommend if you have Game Pass or $8 and you want to throw it at a short movie, basically.
It sounds to me like Gone Home.
Less of a game than Gone Home.
Wow, okay, that's...
Yes.
All right.
I would compare it very... Because it's not even like a first person... Like, you don't control a character at any point. Like, it is... You are given a environment, and you can move your mouse around in the environment, and things will, like, stutter a little bit. You click it, and then a thing happens, and you move on. And that's okay. Literally it. It's practically a hidden object game, like maybe less than that because you're not told to find specific things. It's a very, very, very light game. There's no dialogue. It's all like mimicked with beautiful music in the background. Like it's lovely. It's kind of funny because I streamed this when I started it. Somebody in chat was like, "Oh no, is this going to be one of those I'm going to cry at the end indie games?" Like maybe it's like
it definitely sounds like one of those.
I'll be back in an hour. Okay, so like not for everybody, but just a very pleasant hour-long experience.
That sounds great, and it's on Game Pass, is it?
Yeah, it's on Game Pass. It's like
the perfect place to see those.
So, I mean, the thing that I would compare it to the most, if I had to compare it to something, is Florence, actually, which was one of the studios that was called out in the which this is older reporting. This stuff's been in the public for a while. That the studio that made Florence, which is called Mountains, closed down rather unceremoniously, roughly a year after Florence released, due to management and problems with the studio's founder. The studio still exists, but has no employees, basically. So I have mixed feelings about that game, even though I also adore that game. Similar length, similar amounts of gameplay, just like very light puzzles and things that you interact with. But yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things that's like, I'm going to get way into this because I love this kind of art game thing. But it's not for everybody, but I recommend it.
It sounds like something someone has to experience, you know? There are very, very poignant games out there that I would say, look, it's not your genre. It's not something that's going to open up this whole new thing. You just need to experience this to understand what games can be about.
Yeah, it's less of a traditional game and more of a interactive story.
Exactly. So
It's
basically like
the
Final
video game
Fantasy without the leveling up.
Yeah, it's the video game equivalent of like, you know, those books that you fold them out and then like the cardboard stands up and you get a little diorama.
Oh, yes.
It's the video game equivalent of that. And, you know, those are super entertaining once or twice, and they're really nice art pieces, but it's not going to be, they're never going to sell as well as like a Game of Thrones novel, right? It's neat. It was enjoyable, and it's perfect for a thing to be on Game Pass, and go try it, especially if you have Game Pass. Just play through it. It's great. Belannaer, do you want to talk to me about Weird West?
Yeah, sure. So I got the access to Weird West early. I did 2 first chapters. Then we took a little break. We did the 3rd chapter, and then we did a little break again because of the embargoes, and then we did the last 2 chapters. And Weird West has been pretty awesome. Although it did get pretty repetitive with the fights and everything towards the end of the game. But it's also one of those games that you just want to play through the story because the story is super interesting. And it's basically Western game, isometric view, real-time combat, which was surprising because I was really thinking it would be like a turn-based combat, but when I saw it, I was like, oh, real-time? And it real-time works actually really well on it. But yeah, it's like Wild West combined with a little bit of like this occult and weird things going on, werewolves and magic and so on. And it was a fantastic experience to play through. And I would actually love to see more people play through it because apparently you can do things very differently. Like Kiri's been playing it as well, and I've been actually watching Kiri in the mornings playing it, and we've been discussing some on her channel, like different things we did. Because you can do these pretty big choices in certain parts of the game, which then do actually affect the later parts of the game. Because the game is split in 5 chapters, and each chapter is different character. But it's like time-wise, it's just like progressing all the time. And you can actually have in your party the previous characters as well. And they can die, so they don't necessarily show up again in the later parts. But there's especially at the end of each chapter, there's usually a pretty big choice. And seeing how much it changes doing that choice or not doing that choice, or doing it very differently, and seeing how it affects the game world is actually really cool. And me and Kiri have been kind of being like this nice person throughout the playthrough, but you can absolutely be like a worst human being on the planet and just go raiding and shooting at all the villages and towns and robbing banks and so on. And I would love to see how much that also changes the gameplay and the whole world towards the end. And all of these choices you do have a big meaning, which I don't want to spoil, but there is also a kind of thing that judges you depending what you've been doing throughout the game.
This is a game that's, I think, come up on this podcast a lot. And so I'm going to ask you the same thing that I asked Kiri about this game, which is, can you please give me a comprehensive review of the kick button? Because I've played a number of arcane games, and they're famous for their kick button. And watching people play this, I think that it would make me... It's one of those that like I've been cagey about playing it because I feel like I'll be like FG and it'll just make me want to projectile vomit just because of the way the camera moves. But it's made me want to go back and play Might and Magic Dark Messiah, the legendarily best kick button ever. And because this is the same studio founder and same like kind of minds behind the grand kick button, can you give us a comprehensive review of Weird West's kick button?
So I can confirm that kick button does exist. So you can kick people and enemies, and you can also do all kinds of fun stuff with the environment with that, because the environment is very interactive. You can get the enemies wet, you can get the enemies on fire, you can pour some poison on them and all kinds of things, explosions. And also there is fall damage, so you could technically kick people off a building or something. Apparently there is also, I learned this after finishing the whole game, that you can apparently also knock enemies unconscious and horses also. and then you can drag them around and do all kinds of fun things with them. Like I saw some people calling other people sick puppies on Twitter when they were describing dragging people into the river and drowning the bodies, or just piling them up and throwing some Molotovs in there and all kinds of weird things.
And the cactus juice.
Yes, cactus juice. That's the other thing. It is a like RPG, but it's also an immersive sim, right? Like that's kind of like the design, like ideas behind all of the games that Arcane made, and now Wolfeye Studios of Weird West. So it's lovely to see immersive sims kind of popping up again. I feel like, because they're the only genre kind of outside of roguelikes, I think, that really try and simulate everything in a lot of cases. A lot of traditional roguelikes are very much focused on the, like, you can throw it, you can lick it, you can drop it, you can pour it on something, you can break it, you can use this on, like, everything can be used on everything, right? And hopefully it will happen.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
And it's really cool to see them attempting, like, because Wolfeye Studios is a pretty small studio, attempting a game like that, even like in a top down kind of, like, it sounds bad to say on a smaller scale, but like it's definitely on a smaller scale than something like Deathloop. I wanted to say Loop Hero. Deathloop, which is Arcane's most recent game, which is still attempting to be an immersive sim, but it feels like every immersive sim that Arcane makes becomes less of an immersive sim. Like Prey was very much that. Dishonored kind of became less of that as it went on, and Deathloop was very little of that to a point. So it's really nice to see them taking that torch and continuing to make that kind of game design nightmare.
Yeah, it's definitely really great to see that. Sadly, there is also some kind of bad things that they didn't really hit. Like melee combat is, I would say, absolutely garbage in the game. Like it's not worth doing. It's really fiddly. Even with the Matrix time slowdown thing, it's really hard to do the combat in melee properly. Even though it would be really rewarding. There's 2 characters out of the 5 that could be very well geared for like melee combat, and I really wanted to try like a different type of build for each character because I wanted to try the different types of combat and also so that the game is not just I pick up a rifle and shoot people far away and they die, because that seemed to be the best tactic for most of the things. But it would have been fun to do like a melee build and like a different melee build, but it just didn't really work.
So what you're telling me is it's not possible to do, or annoying and tedious to do, a nothing but kicking build in this game?
It might be quite hard to do. Oh. I mean, there is the second character would be the one for that, because there's a lot of like anti-bullet abilities and things like that, where you don't take damage from shots, so you could actually go kicking around. But
anti-bullet,
it's really hard to hit with the kick, basically, or melee in general, because I don't know. There's you have your radial menus and all that, so there's a lot of like consolidation in there. That's kind of annoying, and I think that's partially the reason why the melee is so hard. Although I did not try, it might be actually easier with a controller if you try it.
That's kind of unfortunate. I wonder if that's a perspective issue or
I would say it is partially, because the game is like isometric view, and then trying to turn your character and hitting with melee. And the melee is quite slow in most cases also. Like, to actually get the swing and hit a monster or a person is fairly difficult to do. Everyone moves really quickly, unless you use the slowdown, I guess, but then you also move very slowly. So it's really hard to hit anything that moves around and shoots you in the face.
Well, I mean, I'm sure we'll hear more about this game. I think at some point we need to get like you, Kiri, and Jess on a podcast to talk about this, because like it's difficult because, like, you know, a scheduling segment that we had at the start of this podcast, but it's like I know Jess is loving it, and I know Kiri is loving it, and I'm enjoying watching people play it. So
yeah, it would be interesting to compare notes.
I'm enjoying watching it because it's got that real vibe, the sort of like noir vibe that I really enjoy in a story. I'm not sure I could stream it, but watching it is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you in that boat. I played a little bit of it, and it's it may not be a game that I would enjoy streaming. I'll put it that way. That being said,
it's definitely worth for the story. But there is also a story difficulty, so if you want to just kind of blaze through the combats and everything and just do the story, you could also do that.
Yeah, that's possible. Although, like, I talk about not being sure if I wanted to stream it or not, that I look at the next game that I have on my list to talk about, and I'm like, well, when it comes to like hard games to stream, I guess everybody just has to pick their battles, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the length of the game as well. This is a very long, like 30 hours for me.
I mean, it's the exact same thing for me. Look at the game I've been playing.
Arch, I think it's time for you to remind everybody that you're still on this podcast and talk to us about your favorite idle game.
Okay. So, I think the best way to describe my entry into this is several years ago, talking about 7 years, I was in a chat with my boss and a couple of colleagues, and my boss said, my boyfriend and I are going to play this game, and we want to build a castle. Who would like to play with us? And I was in the middle of Minecraft, middle of a server that I was playing, and I'm like, yeah, I'm up for that. Downloaded it, closed down Minecraft, jumped into this game, and I think it was 4 or 5 years before I ever opened up Minecraft again. And this game is the predecessor to Minecraft, Worm Online. An indie MMO from way back in 2003 when it was first conceptualized by Rolf Janssen and Notch. So it has a little bit of history there, but yeah, it's a game that I find myself playing all the time, like in between other games. I've often joked that Worm is the game that you play while playing other games. And so this week I have spent countless hours building a house because nothing in Worm comes quick or easy.
So do I ask you to describe Worm for the uninitiated, or should we just kind of leave it all mysterious?
That's a tough one because describing it is... Yeah, because describing it is like really difficult to sort of jump on because it's a very early prototype of so many types of games. Like you can see Worm in the sense of where it's come from and how it's grown and adapted. But it is a sandbox MMO, and it, like, I would say true sandbox. You literally spawn in the world. No quests, no missions, no anything. You can completely terraform the world. You can mine down mountains, raise hills, build cities, destroy them. Everything. Nothing in the world is permanent unless, you own the land. And so it is an absolutely wonderful game of freedom, but without direction can be a little bit daunting when you're first starting out. You're like, okay, I'm here. Now what do I do? But yeah, so after this, Notch went and made Minecraft, and there's actually quite a lot of similarities in terms of just a few little things like progression things and such that you sort of get the feel of, yeah, this is where it had come from. But it's basically a more 3D looking RuneScape, a little bit more focus on the art rather than the stylization. And it involves a lot of clicking and a lot of windows. I have called it Windows Explorer, the MMO, in the past, and it still holds true to this day.
So if this is Windows Explorer, the MMO, then EVE Online is still Excel, the MMO.
Correct, yeah.
Yes, okay, gotcha. And then MUDs are the command line.
That's it.
Yeah.
Worm Online originally, like, you get the feel that it's very heavily influenced by MUDs. So much of the feedback and so much of the game appeared in the event window. You were just acting in the world around it. And full disclosure, I used to work there. Like, I loved this game so much, I started working for them. I've since moved on, but I still play it. And I think this week alone, I probably would have close to 20 hours of play in it. Simply just building a house. Literally a house. I'm looking to build a Viking-style longhouse. And between planning, between getting the resources together and constructing, I've been doing that. But because it's also an MMO, there's people to talk to, other things to do, and it really is just a game that I keep coming back to. And I probably will until it closes down.
There's a review on the Steam version that's a thumbs up review, and the person has 5 hours in the game, and it just says, "I am so confused."
Yeah, no, that sounds like exactly what Worm can be like. My favorite review of all time is, I've been playing Worm for 9 years, and so far I hate it. I'm going to give it another 9 and see how I feel at the end.
Yeah, I understand that kind of relationship with video games.
It is a game that, one funny anecdote that I have when I was working there, we released a limited time server that was 6 months. We told this is going to be here for 6 months. After that, it's going to close down. When you're thinking about games, you're like, 6 months. Wow. Okay. People almost refuse to go to it because what was the point if you've only got 6 months to do something? People in Worm think long term, It's like, what's the point of only having 6 months? I'll hardly be able to get anything done.
Well, I mean, it's a dedicated fan base.
Very.
So.
And they've got a new big update coming at the end of April and the start of March. Start of May. So I'm looking forward to that. They're adding treasure maps, which is always good in an MMO.
I'm actually kind of surprised that it's getting still updated.
Yeah.
Even so many years ago.
Well, that's kind of the beautiful thing for me, and I really could derail this entire podcast talking about it. But we're talking we're talking an indie MMORPG that's been around for active development for 19 years. It went into beta in 2006, so that makes it 16 years, and then it went gold in 2012, so 10 years there. And it launched on Steam, a couple of years ago. And it's still thriving. It's still got an active population. And, it's an indie MMO. It's not big, We're talking, at peak times, you would have maybe 500-600 active users. But, it's just incredible to me.
It strikes me as about the same scale as MechWarrior Online, which is also an indie MMO. It's an indie multiplayer game, but
yeah,
but like that. Yeah, game,
no, it's
peak hours for MechWarrior is like 600-700 people, maybe 1,000 on a weekend, maybe.
Yeah, that's probably bigger than Worm,
and that's like a good weekend.
Yeah, each one of those people are really dedicated, and it's just so beautiful. You can literally jump on a horse, ride around, and see what other people are doing. So many games claim to be sandboxes, claim to have player housing, and they're almost like cookie-cutter instances of things. This game literally has free building where everyone can see, and it's absolutely great. I have seen people build cathedrals in this game, and I'm still living in a little box because I don't have any imagination, and this is the first time in 7 odd years that I'm actually trying to build a house that has some sort of style. But it's a game that I thoroughly recommend checking out and just exploring. It's not going to necessarily be a game that grabs you, but just being able to see what people do in it is just amazing.
Is the majority of
How difficult...
Go on, you first.
How difficult would you say it's actually to get into it now as a new player, or is it even worth it at this point anymore?
Oh, absolutely, it's worth it. There is no, it's a crafting sandbox game, so there's not real, the content's gone or it's too difficult. It's you can progress at your own pace. Getting into it, it depends a lot. Solo play is very, there's an overwhelming amount of information that's needed. Literally, the wiki is available in-game via an in-game browser, and it is officially hosted because, quite simply, it's a necessary part of the game. But with that in mind, there is just so much there that you can do and learn. And if you play with people or you find a group, you really get dragged in quickly. For example, when I started with people, there were 4 of us, and, one was like, oh, I want to be the blacksmith. And the other one's like, I'm going to work with the animals. I'm going to work with the wood. And I'm like, I'm going to get you all the resources. So the first, 6 months of me playing this game, I literally chopped trees, mined iron and rock, and just got people the resources they needed for their own skills. And it really felt like you were working together. And, it's as long as you can get into it and get past that steep learning curve, it will grab you and hold you for a long time.
Now, I gotta ask, because this game is free to play, how do they keep the cheddar rolling? What's the business model for this?
Right, the business model is subscription-based, so it's one of those ones, free to play, unlimited play like that. It's not like, you can only play X amount. Skills are capped at 20. And then you subscribe and your skills can go above 20. So that is how they operate. Subscriptions can be purchased in game with silver that you earn from other players, or, with real money. A lot of people pay for in-game work. The economy is very much a trade-focused one, not barter. And there's a lot of resources and a lot of accessible stuff for new players. Like, the high-end items are never going to be, a new player can't come in and go, oh, I've made this item that's worth this much. But there's always work that new players can do, whether it's creating bulk items, whether it's, I literally hired someone to sow my farm once a week. Because I could not be bothered sewing that many tiles. I was busy. I had things to do. So I was like, look, once a week you come along, you plant 3,000 tomatoes, and that's a very big farm. And 3,000 tomatoes, and I'll pay your premium every month. And they're like, yeah, sure. And that's how it was. And so, yeah, that is the main business model there.
Interesting. So were you paying for the person's premium with in-game currency, or were you PayPaling them money?
So previously it used to allow RMT, so I was actually PayPaling them the money. Nowadays they have banned RMT as they've moved to Steam, and of course Steam does not like that. So they had to remove it. But yeah, in the past you could basically do services and offer to pay in PayPal, and it was so much easier for me. Nowadays, I just pay in in-game currency.
Huh. Well, if you want to be Arch's water boy, you can do that virtually, I guess.
To be honest, I would love to see Arch stream this and take us on a tour.
I think about it, but the problem is so much of it is I used to do streams for it officially, and they would literally be riding around talking about the history of places. And it's always funny because, if you want to protect a plot of land, you place a deed, and that costs money and upkeep. And then when that runs out, the place decays away. And I've always had people go, oh, it's so sad when you find a place decaying. And I'm like, no, don't you understand? Someone was there, Someone came along, they built their place, and now it's going and it's returning. But someone was there, and someone else is going to come along, and they're going to be there too. And it's the oldest server is about 16 years old. We're talking 16 years of people coming along, building villages, building towns, and then moving on, and the game slowly regenerates back to another person coming along. And that's like one of the best things that came about recently. I say recently, I mean in like the last 5 years. The archaeology system literally means that you can find information about past villages that were where you are searching. You know, who founded them, how long they were there for, when they disbanded, and you can find really cool information. And, you know, I've gone back to all of my old villages and found those tokens for that information, because it's just like, as the game evolves, the history of the server becomes part of the game, and I love that.
Yeah, that kind of stuff is always really amazing. I love that stuff as well. Like, I don't really play EVE Online anymore, but I love to hear the stories and all the shenanigans that goes on and all of that. So this seems like a similar setup for all kinds of amazing player-created history and stories, and that happened in the server.
Absolutely. Player-created history is a big part of it.
It's like really, really, really slow multiplayer Dwarf Fortress.
Yes, okay, so the elephant in the room, it's incredibly grindy. Everything is on a timer, you know, it's not like, oh yeah, you punch the tree until it's full, you click chop down the tree, you watch the timer, you click chop down the tree, you watch the timer. But, you know, when you can get past that, when you can sort of appreciate the game for the progression sense, like, I have built many houses in many games, but I have never felt as proud of a silly little cube house in any game other than Worm Online.
It's also in a lot of games you maybe play them like 30 hours, and if it takes a lot of grinding and effort to get a small cube house and then you're done, it doesn't leave that same kind of mark as a game that's been going on for years and years and years, and you finally get your own little bit of a corner in that world.
I still remember I was playing with, I had a few people, because when it launched on Steam, I did some streaming of it. I had a few people from my community join, and I still remember one, like, it was his third day, and he's like, I don't know whether to mine through the mountain or fill in the sea to make this path quicker. And I'm just like, that is such a worm idea, you know? Do I spend hours filling in the sea, or do I spend hours mining through this section just to make this road a bit quicker? And, so...
That's like me in Dwarf Fortress spending 7 hours of gameplay time rebuilding an entire layer of blocks so that when the next Goblin Siege comes by, I can pull one lever and cave half the map in on their heads. It takes me about 6 hours to reset a trap. But when I reset it and when I pull that lever, it is very satisfying. 3 seconds. So,
but that kind of like road building and path building is also really cool for other players. Like especially when you know like how much grind and effort goes into making something like that, and then you come by this whatever bypass they're making, or a road or a cathedral, like you said, or anything like that. It's just amazing.
It's unbelievable. Like, there is one village near me that has literally built a cathedral. It uses bridges as the roofs to create the really high vaulted ceiling look. It uses bridges with other buildings to create the look of flying buttresses. It's absolutely insane. And you look at it going, how on earth did you envisage that? And it is just... The game is honestly amazing, and I will be playing it until it shuts down, and when it shuts down, I'll probably jump onto Worm Unlimited and play it there too, because it just keeps dragging me back. You know, anytime I start spending hours in a game, I'm like, yeah, but I could be dedicating this time to grinding in Worm Online.
Now, when you say when it shuts down, are you expecting it to shut down soon?
No, I don't expect it to shut down anytime soon, but, you know, I still remember there's posts on the forum from 2008 claiming the game is dying. So,
Games are dying the second they start, though. That's the thing. It's just like people. The second we start living, we're already dying. Just
No, because the cells are growing. You're growing, I think, till about your early 20s is when you stop growing and your cells slowly start dying. So that's when you start dying. You don't start dying as a baby.
Yeah, you do. The literal second you are born, your timer is going and you are already dying. But that's because I'm a nihilist. You're a glass half full. I'm a glass half empty kind of guy. Video games, the second they come out of beta, they're already dying.
Yeah, just, you post that enough time in enough places, you'll be right eventually.
I mean, New World is a dead game right now. There's 20,000 people playing it because there isn't 700,000 people playing it anymore.
It really is, it's so frustrating because I have the same view that it's a dead game.
It's not. But it's perfectly fine and will go for years at that rate. The phrasing that should be used is it's dead to me, or it holds no value to me anymore. Because I loved New World. I had an absolute joy playing it. And then I hit that point where I realized the gameplay loop and how repetitive it is. And as soon as that happened, I was like, yeah, no, I'm done. And I've not seen anything come out that's really shown me that it's worth getting back into. I watched FG play it yesterday, and it was pretty to look at, and it's I still love the sound design of it. But just at the end of it all, I was like, okay. It didn't inspire me to play the game. It wasn't like, oh, yes, I can't wait to play that, or I'm going to load it up now. Like watching some people play games can do. So, yeah, I wouldn't say it's a dead game, but it is definitely dead to me. Well, that was a wonderful discussion. I really enjoyed that. I'm gonna hijack this podcast once again and talk about Norco. So, Norco is a Southern Gothic adventure point and click choice paralysis role playing game.
I just want to interrupt you there.
Go nuts.
You may have just been about to answer that. What is Southern Gothic?
Woof. Okay, so Southern Gothic... Okay, do I need to talk about To Kill a Mockingbird, or can I just say that out loud?
No, you can just say that out loud. I know that.
Okay, so To Kill a Mockingbird is probably the most famous example of Southern Gothic. Southern Gothic is... Southern U.S. folklore / in broad strokes, Southern Gothic is fantasy, cosmic horror, Southern U.S. Another example of Southern Gothic would be, I'm thinking for video game examples, and I would point at the Crytek shooter, which I'm blanking on the name of at this precise second. Hunt Showdown.
Crisis. Oh, right. Okay.
Hunt Showdown is Southern Gothic. Norco is interesting because it's also very cyberpunk in a lot of ways that are maybe not immediately obvious when you just look at the screenshots. Everything is very heavily based in Christianity that's borderline cosmic horror. The writing is very, very dense and in a world that is... Okay, so setting of Norco. It's near future sometime. Near future as in almost nobody has jobs because everything is run by AI terminals. And there are security robots that are humanoid that are artificially intelligent. There is brain scanning, copying your brain to a hard drive as a backup to give to your children, things like that. The game talks about, and this is just in the prologue intro, there is a free demo for this, so that's mostly what I will be talking about in this, is the stuff that is covered in the demo, because I really don't want to spoil anything. You play as a character, and she's named Kay. She left home after one of the great long storms, as they call them in the game, which, from what I can tell from flavor text and world building, is essentially a hurricane that lasts for a very long time due to climate change and the world falling apart. These long storms can completely devastate entire cities, and have caused mass amounts of destruction to the point where the only people that can afford to work through them and keep going are the oil refineries and massive corporations. And this has led to warring factions in southern states, and small militias breaking out and attacking pipelines. The game talks about what they call oil pirates that will go around either trying to divert oil pipelines to other places to then sell the oil, or just straight out bombing them. So that's kind of the intro narrative. Your character was in communication with her family after she left home after one of these storms. Her brothers went AWOL shortly after she left and got into some bad stuff. And your character ends up getting caught up in some of the fighting in one of these militia groups, ends up road tripping across the states, and then you hear that your mother is dying. Everybody in this world, because, and I say everybody, it's a lot of people in this world, at least in Norco, Louisiana, which is where the game takes place, are dying of cancer due to extreme amounts of pollution. The fact that the entire town is owned by S.H.I.E.L.D., which is a wing of a massive oil conglomerate, which is run by a character that you'll learn a lot about. And this oil refinery is destroying the people that are left in this town that can't afford to leave, that are working for the company or are working for the small companies surrounding it. But S.H.I.E.L.D. is buying out all the small companies. And after you get this massive lore dump right at the beginning and this beautiful intro sequence with some incredible music by the southern Louisiana-based sludge rock / black metal band Thou, which soundtrack's fantastic. They very quickly you start to find out that your mom was learning about something. So by the time you get home, your mother's passed away and you're trying to find your brother. Your mom had discovered something and you're trying to find out what. That is the baseline pitch for Norco. And in the first 3 hours of this game, it goes so absolutely off the wall. I'm trying really hard not to swear because of how much I enjoy this game. Absolutely nuts. All I can say is not enough people have played this game. It's not getting enough buzz, and this is probably my game of the year. It's very early to say that, but it's an early favorite. In fact, I think this might be my game of the last 2 years. Maybe 3. It's been a long time since a game's done this to me. Like, I've seen the ending that I got. There are multiple endings to this thing. The ending that I got was extremely satisfying. I found another ending very quickly after finding the first one, which was even more interesting and more satisfying, and then went and watched another ending on YouTube, which was interesting from a different perspective. And I still have questions, but the game gives you enough information throughout that you can find a satisfying through line between everything, while at the same time just drenching yourself in this slang-heavy, accent-written, incredible dialogue. And I really, really, really like Norco.
Well, you've talked me into it. I'm downloading it currently.
I intend to play it as well at some point.
So
what causes the choice paralysis?
So the reason I say choice paralysis, the first game that I encountered that I heard referred to as that was Disco Elysium, where they And I've also seen people refer to the Witcher games as choice paralysis at times. It's when they give you a bunch of hard choices and none of them are good. So, yeah. So, choice. Yeah. It's although this game doesn't often do all of this makes me feel very bad. It's more of all of this is wrong. That thing that I'm looking at is wrong. I don't know how to answer this because everything here is wrong. It's more of that. Less of that's a bad option, that's a bad option, and that's a bad option. It's more of all of these are confusing and horrible in different ways, and I don't like any of this. Yeah. But you know which is the answer for you because of the last few answers that you made. And the dialogue does branch. It's not as punishing as something like a Disco Elysium. It's not going to turn around and be like, oh, so you're a Nazi. Or it's not going to quite do that level of accusations. There is a mind map where you can, which is actually kind of fantastic for people who would want to play this game over a longer period of time, because it is quite dense. It's about 10, I would say tentatively about 10 to 12 hours long. You can click on every single character in the mind map that pops up over time, because it starts off with this one little bubble that's you, and then it expands to you, your brother, and your mom, and then it expands out slowly from there, and the pictures start off blurred, and then they fill in as you find out more information. You can click on each one of those images and read through each character's backstory and every single major event in a very abbreviated fashion, in a way that feels like you're the person thinking about it, which is, once again, just me praising this thing's writing back to back to back. Like, I streamed this in its entirety in 2 days, and the second stream was why I was up until 1 o'clock in the morning trying to finish it. But I had somebody pop into my chat and basically say, like, oh my God, this writing is incredible. And they had no context for anything that was going on, and it was a random conversation with a non-important NPC.
Wow.
So
yeah, that sounds a lot similar to like all the choices and everything you have to make in Detroit Become Human as well. Like I played that earlier this year with my community, and it was a really, really fun. And having the same kind of like, I don't want to do any of these choices. All of them are something I don't want to do, but I have to pick one. And then also sometimes missing an option or doing it wrong. And it's like, I didn't intend to do this, and something bad happens because of that. And doing that with your community is really fun. It sounds like Norco would be also really great to do with chat.
But like, critically, this game is doing extremely well. As far as playing it with chat goes, like, chat enjoyed it. It's kind of funny because there was several points where like I'd go through like this huge dialogue sequence with like 4 characters and just talking back and forth and discussing things, and finish this all, and it's been an hour, and I look over at chat and nobody said anything in 30 minutes. I'm like, chat, you guys alive? And then like 20 people are like, that was awesome, keep reading. It's like it kind of turns into a library at times, but the people that watched me play it seemed to really enjoy it. So
that's awesome.
Critically, this game's getting like really, really good reviews. It's recommended by Eurogamer. PC Gamer gave it a 94 out of 100. And it's either getting like 10 out of 10s or like 1 rating below whatever 10 out of 10s people give. But it's just, it hasn't gotten a huge audience reception. Like I don't see a lot of word of mouth about this thing. It kind of reminds me of when Hollow Knight came out and got like 10 out of 10s from every like review outlet that reviewed it, and then nobody talked about it for like a month. And I'm wondering if this will bubble up, but I'm thinking that because it is an adventure game, like it's a point and click, right? Like you're going to be clicking on objects in the environment and getting contextual text. There are some mini games. There's a combat mini game. Oh, this is something that's also in the demo, so I can talk about it. There is a monkey character that you can get in the game. It is your childhood stuffed monkey from your bedroom, and it actually joins your party. It's a party member. You drape it over your shoulder and you take it with you. You can have staring contests with the monkey, and in order to get the monkey in your party, you have to have a staring contest with it and win the staring contest, which is a combat minigame. And then you can use the monkey as part of other combat sequences later in the game because you hold it up in front of you and they have to have a staring contest with the monkey. It's got stuff like that in it. And there is missable things, so you have to be pretty diligent about playing through this. Look at everything, click on everything, but it is cool. It's really, really, really cool.
I'm definitely going to have to check this out. I've got the demo downloaded. and I'll probably be playing it today or tomorrow, and I'll let you know.
It's also on Game Pass if you happen to have Game Pass.
Oh, well, now I've just gonna have to go and download it twice.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's where I played it. And I will say this, once I have some money to burn, which I don't currently, I will buy this game because I feel kind of bad playing it on Game Pass and like looking at Steam and going, oh man, this thing's got less than 200 reviews on Steam. I want to buy it so I can review it on Steam. It's also up on itch. So it's available in places where you purchase video games. I also want to buy the soundtrack and I hope they put it on vinyl because I really like Thou. Thou is so good. So
Need to get on them with Fangamer. I think Fangamer is the one that always...
Oh, not Fangamer.
What?
Not Fangamer.
No?
The reason I say not Fangamer is because they Fangamer and I Am 8-Bit are just across the border from me, more or less. Like one's in California, the other's in Seattle, I think, home-based. But they both charge exorbitant amounts for their shipping to ship to Canada. So if it's Fangamer, I have to just kind of like be sad because I'd have to spend about $80 to ship one record up to Canada. If I want to buy 6 records from them, that's fine. But I never buy that many at a time. So it's like their shipping costs are ridiculous.
See, I'm just in New Zealand, so I'm used to everything shipping being ridiculous.
For comparison, shipping a single double vinyl record, so like two discs in a case, so a heavier record, from Germany costs about $12. Shipping the same record from Seattle up to Canada, right across the border, like a 4-hour drive, about $80-$85.
That seems a little bit broken.
Yeah. Well, it was fine right up until not the most recent president, but the one previously got elected.
Ah, right.
And since then, it's like, well, I guess I can't order consumer products from the States ever unless it's like subsidized, basically. So, is what it is. But I mean, that's just a me Canada specific. If Fangamer did do a pressing, odds are pretty good that one of the other labels that puts out soundtracks would pick it up and then they'd sell it locally from there. And then so like it would get shipped off to Germany and then I'd buy it from Germany or whatever. But like it is what it is. I hope they do some of that because I would buy it immediately. But, yeah, that's Norco, and that's another one that I'd love to talk spoilers with people. If somebody wants to do a spoiler cast with me on that one, call me. Because like you could do it in a stream if you started with that and just powered through. You could do it in a stream. It is dense, but you could do it. There is no voice acting. I should point that out, but it's got like kind of that voice warbles, which are pretty fun. So, yeah. That's that is Norco, I would say. So I'm gonna take us to a real quick break here because we went long on 2 of those, which is fine. I think those were some lovely discussions about the games that we've been playing. I'm gonna take us to a real quick break. When we come back, we're gonna talk about news and jump up and down and cheer for the death of NFTs. I mean, the death of some NFTs anyway. We'll be back in right after this.
Do you like indie games? Or what about strategy? Are you tired of screen shake and motion blur? Stop by my streams on Twitch to discover new games and experience wholesome community interaction in a simulation sickness friendly environment. You can find me on twitch.tv/2dkiri. I'll see you there.
All right, everybody, and welcome back to this here Halcyon Frequency Podcast for April 10th, 2022. I hope you enjoyed that quick break. I'm joined by Belannaer and ArchPlaysStuff, and I'm still blind. And I'm still hosting, and apparently now is the best time to get hiccups. So, Arch, do you want to take this first article we have here on this list?
Yeah, sure thing. So, Ubisoft has just announced that they are no longer updating Ghost Recon Breakpoint, which was a rather mediocre game that got quite controversial when they announced the NFTs that you could earn in-game. Mm-hmm. They managed to sell a whopping 100 of them, I believe.
At laughably small amounts. Like, it cost them more in gas fees to mint all of their NFTs than they made off of the NFTs.
Yeah, but, you know, part of the discussion I've been reading is maybe that was part of the point, more about the discussion than the NFTs themselves. But yeah, so with the it's not being sunsetted. It's entering maintenance mode, which is an industry term for the servers are still online. We're just no longer going to be providing updates. Bug fixes and critical broken things may get done, but it's mostly keeping the engine running for however long. And yeah, so there's a lot of discussion about, whether how this went with NFTs, whether this was a trial or something, or what indeed happens with the NFTs now that the game is like this. So
there's a few weird things about Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Like you said, it was kind of a middling response. I mean, it was kind of a follow-up to Ghost Recon Wildlands, which was quite well received, if I remember correctly, like just as a big open world co-op game. Kind of had I don't know if this was intended or not, but kind of drew the similar audience as like a Just Cause, because it was just kind of goofy, like the stuff that you could do with vehicles in that game. But Breakpoint, when it released, had a lot of mechanical changes and a lot of Ubisoft style bugs and issues and problems due to underbaking and overworking of employees. And so it released to kind of middling success. Never released on Steam. Was Uplay exclusive, which like also didn't help, I guess. I think it's also on it's on the Epic Game Store as well. And it was very much like very much not well received when it came out, at least by the wider public, but it had its audience and people played it. The way the NFTs actually work in this game, which is attached to their own closed house network called Quartz, which you sign up for with your Ubisoft account, and that's basically your wallet for these things. The way that it actually works in this game specifically is it's attached to levels. So if you when you're playing Counter-Strike Go, right, you can get a skin for your gun, and you just put it on your gun and you play, right? In this, you can get a skin for your gun, but you can only use that skin if you're level 40, which is not a very good way of incentivizing people to purchase them in the first place. So it was kind of counterintuitive. And so the result was a lot of the stuff that was purchased by people that were playing single player offline by themselves a whole lot. And there was an article that was posted on Waypoint by one Patrick Klepek, which is Vice Games. We're interviewing some of these individuals about why they'd purchased them. Some of them didn't even realize they were NFTs. Because they are rather indistinguishable from normal in-game items. Aside from that, they have a number attached to them, basically stating that they are limited, which, you could totally do with digital items anyways. And like you said, the game isn't being sunsetted. Like the servers are staying online. I would assume if they take the servers offline, you'd still be able to play single player. I don't think it's entirely online only, but what do I know? I haven't actually played the game. The result of this is just kind of interesting because it's like, well, the game's no longer getting updates, which means there's going to be almost no real reason for people to start playing the game now, especially if there's a follow-up in the future, which probably will have these same mechanics in it anyway. It like you said, it begs the question, what is the purpose of any of this, if anything? I mean, it just drove your review score down a little more, made you no money, cost you a lot of money, and the people playing the game didn't seem to care.
It does sound like that they kind of knew that it wasn't doing super well anyways, so they decided to pick this game as a kind of their test bed for the NFTs and see how they do, and they kind of expected them to do a lot better than they did eventually.
Yeah, that's the question that you really sort of start to think about, and we'll never know. Did they go, well, this game's middling to struggling, let's throw out NFTs and sort of test the waters and get our own experience from it? Or did they go, let's throw out and see if NFTs is enough to hook people? Because we all know, anyone who spends time on Twitter, the crypto bros that are around are, very, very hungry sharks for anything that looks like NFTs becoming mainstream. So it may have been just testing NFTs, or even an attempt to see, hey, can we get the NFT market in? Because Ubisoft themselves have said, it's in this article here, in an interview, gamers don't get how they can benefit from NFTs. And first of all, second of all, it shows a distinct divide between the gaming community and the NFT community. They're not one and the same necessarily. And that's where, you know, these games are trying to appeal to both, but basically turn off each other, you know?
I've got a kind of a slightly different opinion on this. I think what Ubisoft is trying to do with this is they're trying to input it into a game late in that game's life cycle so that it's not a big deal when it's still included in their next one. That was my opinion of this. The second they put this out, I was like, oh, they're just trying to normalize it so that when the next game comes out, people don't blink. Because it caused, you know, there was a kerfuffle on Twitter when this was announced. Like, there was articles linked on Reddit. There was discussion on various forums and Discords and places. Like, everybody was talking about this. Oh my god, Ubisoft is putting NFTs in their video games. It's a game nobody cares about. It's a game that had bad review scores anyways. It's a game that was already kind of a smear on like their like last 2 decades of work. So when it's just included in the next one, it's normalized. And that's my big fear, is that they're shutting this, like, well, they're not sunsetting it, but like they're ceasing development of this game to move on to whatever's next, and then whatever's next has a more egregious version of this included. Because I've seen some people pose the argument that, NFTs in video games is a way of removing other forms of microtransactions in games. It's like, absolutely not. Like, they will continue to charge you for Uplay Plus. They will continue to charge you for your traditional microtransactions and boosts and whatnot. They will continue to charge you for skins, and they will also have limited releases of these things.
Yep. You know, like I think we've learned that the goal is to just see how much the communities will tolerate and just sit below that level, you know?
Yeah.
They're not saying...
Go on.
They're not saying that, we're not going to use it at all. They're like, okay, people get annoyed when it's this heavy, so let's just make it a little bit less heavy. Yeah. And you'll see that throughout the entire... just everything, you know? That's basically the way it goes. I remember when microtransactions were barely a thing in games.
And it made everybody mad every time it happened. But the next article we have on here is a pretty good segue for this, because it's like, when you are launching an NFT project or an NFT game, you need an audience that is not the most video game savvy, and an audience that has a lot of money. And so we're going to talk about the official Formula One NFT game that is officially shutting down. Now, hold your horses. If you own a very expensive vehicle or token for Formula One Delta Time, don't worry, never fear. The developer of Formula One Delta Time, who was unable to get the license for a second year in a row, have said that they will be migrating those tokens over to their new unbranded racing token-based NFT game thing. So if you have a Formula One token, you will get an equal token for their next project. So never fear. Nobody will care about them either, but it's fine. This game made waves when it launched in because it has the example of the most expensive NFT sold in a video game of just over $100,000. And all of the tokens for this game now are quite literally worthless. There's actually if you look at the article on Kotaku that I linked, or I'm linking in the show notes and I linked in the Discord here, and it's in our document as well. There's actually this lovely graph of how expensive these tokens are initially, and then the spikes as updates come out, and then it just flat lines. And they are... like, it is hard for me to talk about this in anything other than abject, absolute negativity, because for me, this is Well, number one, the game itself, F1 Delta Time, if you go look it up, it's not good looking. It is extraordinarily ugly. It is a very simplistic top-down racing game that runs in a browser and is almost upsetting to look at. It is so ugly. It looks like an early iPhone game or like an early iPod Touch game. And knowing the amount of money that's moved through this thing and the number of projects that it inspired is upsetting to me. I did a little bit of research looking into this, and there's a video that's linked on this article of some gameplay of it. And the maker of this video, who's talking about all of this, the game and all of like the cost of everything and whatnot, in the comments section is talking about how he didn't play this game because he was interested in the game or even Formula One. He was interested in the money. And I think that and then went on to make his own NFT project game based on horse racing from the looks of things, which apparently is doing quite well. But like, I look at this and I go, I like video games because it's accessible long-form entertainment that everybody can enjoy. This is an example of a massive thing that made waves that is shutting down and worthless now. But all that these games do is gentrify an industry that was previously, or is still currently, extremely successful to everybody at all levels of life. If you own a cell phone, if you own an old computer, if you own a gaming console from half a decade ago, you're in the hobby with everybody else and can play massive back catalogs of games. And if the industry moves in this direction, it's going to be just like the egregious price gouging and deluxe editions and portioning out of AAA games, but accelerated to the absolute rock bottom of gentrification of playability of video games, and I think it's absolutely disgusting.
I think we're just lucky at this point in time that a good game and NFTs have remained two separate circles, because I think once you wind up with a good game that has people really enjoying it and NFTs, you will start seeing people become a little bit more accustomed to them. Mm-hmm. Right now, the quality of the game does a huge part in keeping people away from getting into NFTs. I am concerned about when that will change.
There was a interview done with a developer for a game that had a Steam page that was removed when Steam did the whole we don't want NFTs on our platform thing. Yep. And the interview basically was, I don't want to actually shout out what this game was, but I'll just say this. The quote in broad strokes was essentially, we don't have a game yet. We have a marketplace and a storefront because that's what the community wants. We're not trying to attract traditional gamers. We're trying to convert crypto enthusiasts into gamers.
Yep, that's exactly.
They're trying
like
to build
a
new industry around it out of a very small group of people in the grand. So they're trying to build a micro industry out of a group of people that's 500,000 people, which are super active in the the NFT space, and then another 500,000 that are passively interested in the crypto NFT space. It's like maybe 1 million people you got. Like it's not a lot of people.
Well, the only thing I'll really say about NFTs at the end is one of my favorite Chrome my favorite Chrome extensions is it changes the word NFT to silly JPEG.
What about the TweetDeck extension that just automatically blocks everybody with an NFT icon?
Yeah, exactly. I would love to make a display picture mocking those, but I'd get blocked by people, like the hexagon display picture.
Well, just mint your own NFT.
Do you know my self-portrait emote that I've done? If I didn't hate NFTs so much, I would mint that just as a statement of, this is still better than your monkey art.
You know, some of those people are in Vancouver, my city, right? I know what coffee shop they hang out in. But anyway, that's another story for a different podcast probably. Yeah. So yay, F1 Delta time is gone. Nobody cares. Nobody should. So Activision Blizzard, midway through last month, announced that they would be lifting mandatory vaccination mandates for all employees that are working in the office. Well, for all of Activision Blizzard. This caused several studios to walk out. This caused Blizzard, a large number of employees from Blizzard, to walk out, as well as some people over at Raven who are unionizing, and various other studios issued complaints. Activision Blizzard as a corporation has since changed that policy from none of their studios require proof of vaccinations to studios can decide whether or not they want to require proof of vaccination, which Blizzard has reinstated. So I just, at the end of the day, get vaccinated if you want and don't if you don't. But if the majority of people in a workplace are uncomfortable being around people that aren't vaccinated, I think it's still a company it should be the company's right to reinstate that mandate independently if they choose. I think Blizzard did the right thing there.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think that, it's the same as requiring pants in a workplace, so to say. Public health is the public is a shared space. Any shared space requires people to meet certain things in order to look after the health of others.
Hello, Blind here with a little update. So one of the articles that we talk about in the news segment is related to Activision Blizzard QA and them being taken on full time as well as given raises. But I do have an update from the Bloomberg story that we covered in the upcoming thing that you're about to hear. So I'm just going to read that out real quick, which is update as of 3:12 p.m. on the 9th, which is when I'm editing this right now. And they say, after publication, Bloomberg has reported that Raven software QA workers will not receive the same raises. Activision Blizzard confirmed that in this statement emailed to Polygon, due to our legal obligations under national law, Labor Restrictions Act, we cannot institute new pay incentives at Raven at this time because they would be under new kinds of compensation changes. The Activision Blizzard spokesperson said that the QA conversion does not have any relation to the petition pending at Raven Software Studio related to Raven Software unionizing, and Raven situation. The Raven situation is limited to Raven. So specifically, Raven Software will not be receiving the same raises as the other 1,100 QA workers within Activision Blizzard that are receiving raises. With this little update aside, continue with the podcast. Maybe this is just the beginning of them going, oh, maybe we actually have a higher budget for people now that Microsoft is trying to take over, which still hasn't happened yet. People shouldn't talk about it like it's done because that's still in the works, but that buyout is happening.
That's the thing that kind of has me thinking, it's very easy to look at this and go, oh, well, this is a clear sign that Microsoft is leveraging everything to try and, improve things, because they have spoken about wanting to improve it. And Phil Spencer is like an absolute advocate for it all. But we also know that it's not set in stone. And this seems like an incredibly, a lot of work and very big steps for something that's not currently set in stone. So I kind of wonder, whether or not it's that or Ubisoft realizing just how Blizzard realizing just how much negative PR is in the world about them right now. There's literally nothing positive about them, and realizing that they need to change that, and even if that means spending some serious coin, because it's one of those things they cite costs and all of that, but suddenly they can take all these QA testers on full time, they can handle pay increases, and you're like, well, where was the money for this, before when you said it wasn't available?
Yeah. I'm going to read a short bit of this Engadget article on the subject, which is Activision Blizzard is converting all of its temporary contract quality assurance workers in the U.S. to full-time employees starting July 1st. Many of the 1,100 workers will receive a pay increase. Minimum hourly rate is going up to $20 per hour as of April 17th as permanent employees, and the workers will receive benefits and can participate in a bonus plan. So... to me, that just seems like a net positive for everybody working in QA for Activision Blizzard as a whole.
I just would advise that they QA check that contract, because I'm getting major Simpsons So Long Dental Plan vibes from it,
Well,
Yeah, it's also interesting to see that it's US workers, but I would imagine they have quite a lot of non-US quality assurance people as well, being such a massive corporation.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably already required to be full-time by the more employee-friendly laws around the world.
I will link you a video after this about QA workers in the Philippines, but that's, again, a subject for another day.
I did speak to this.
I know in Europe as well, a lot of the other companies are not treating their QA very well. Even if we have a better employee laws and everything, the QA usually still is the bottom rung people.
I just remember our QA always feeling incredibly stressed out and underappreciated because, in her own words, all the bugs aren't fixed.
Yeah.
So what can we do to help you? Fix all the bugs. Not just some of them, all of them.
So now, did you want to say something, Bill? Or okay, I'm just gonna move us on to the next one.
Yeah.
So,
sure.
Looking at this, I know that was a lot of kind of like downer NFT talk, and then kind of some hard to listen to Blizzard related things. But we got a fun one. So Bafta happened, British Video Game Awards. And we have our 2022 wieners. So people can jump up and down and scream, I'm gonna ween. And I think we're just gonna maybe read through these, just kind of take turns grabbing the winners, which are kind of towards the bottom of the article. I'll link the whole article if you want to read it yourselves at home. But I'm just gonna take the first one, and then Archie can take the next one, and Bell can go after that.
I want the first one.
Oh yeah, right. That makes sense. Bell, you take the first one. Go.
So the best game of Bafta Games Awards 2022 was Returnal by Housemarque. So yay, Finland.
I want to play this game so bad. It looks so good.
It looks really good.
It does.
I've been kind of thinking as well. I should try it. Now, if it's winning Bafta Awards and it's Finnish, I kind of have to. It's in my blood. I'm contractually obliged.
Do you think if you call your friends next door at Housemarque, they'll send you a PlayStation 5?
Well, they're a little far away. They're in Helsinki, I think. So it's like 700 kilometers. That's neighboring Finland,
it's a
basically.
Quick drive. Come on. But
you can be there before the sun goes down.
Technically, yes. I mean, I could fly there in an hour.
Oh boy, yeah. No, I'm happy for them, because that's the studio I was worried about. I was actually playing Nex Machina the other night, which is a previous title that they put out a number of years ago, because it was included in the Humble Bundle for Ukraine, and I was playing through that. I was like, man, they make good stuff. It's just kind of I'm sad that it's a PlayStation 5 exclusive, but I get it, I get it. I'll take.
Yeah, I would imagine it comes at some point for other platforms.
One day I will get a PlayStation.
Winning and everything.
Yeah, I'll get a PlayStation 5 used in 4 or 5 years, or maybe it'll come to PC one day, and if it does, I'll play it then right away. I mean, watch a gameplay of it. It just kind of looks like a really pretty, slower paced, very expensive Risk of Rain 2, which, you know what, I'm all in. I'll play that. Sounds great.
Yeah, I love everything sci-fi. I'll play it for sure.
Yeah. Best British game is Forza Horizon 5.
Yeah, that surprised me. I thought the British made
it's
other
not
games.
a bad game. Like, I really enjoyed Forza Horizon 5, but I'm not sure if it's the best British game. But I don't know what else came out.
Well, best British game is Forza Horizon 4 because it's in Britain. This is in Mexico. Come on.
Well, I will say, Forza is the first time I've been really into a driving game in a while. Mostly because I don't like the realistic super like Gran Turismo hardcore ones. I like the more arcade style.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it, but it didn't strike me as like best British game. There's, quite a fair few British companies that are producing games, and I'm really surprised that it went to Forza. Because it doesn't appear anywhere else, and you usually find, like, we look at Returnal, we'll be hearing their name several times throughout this. And just, it's incredibly strange to me that it wins Best British Game when it didn't win in any other category.
The thing about Forza Horizon is the best Forza Horizon can be. And I don't think there's really been a bad one. Like,
yeah,
they are consistently extremely high quality, fun racing games. And I always sit down and whenever one comes out, if I end up with it, I will play it for about 20 hours, get bored, and then be like, yep, I'll wait for the next one. And that's kind of where I'm at with this one. Like, I played it for a good 20, 30 hours. I finished most of the main areas just off stream in the evenings, just plucking away, listening to a podcast. But, it's beautiful to look at. The cars are really nice. I kind of wish there was less cars in it because I kind of get like the overwhelming sense of like, there's so much here. And also, why is this car like dramatically faster than that car when they're the same speed in real life? Oh, it's because they have more sponsor money. I get it. But like, there's definitely some weirdness for it. Like as somebody who knows a little bit about cars, but it's just, it's just a great game.
Look, my favorite thing is every time you got a new car, you could go to the online workshop and find your anime version of the car.
Mm-hmm. Belannaer,
that's basically what I did.
Belannaer, do you want to take this next one?
Yeah, sure. So the performer in a leading role is Jane Perry as Celine Vassos from the Returnal, which of course doesn't mean anything to us if you haven't played the game.
That's the character you play as, I think. Well, leading role, so.
Leading role makes sense. Yeah.
Because like the story in that game is done through flashbacks in between runs and when you enter new zones, if I'm not mistaken. But performer in a supporting role, Kimberly Brooks as Holius Forsyth in Psychonauts 2. Did any of us play Psychonauts?
I've not.
I've been meaning to, and people yell at me to play it all the time. But I don't know. I have not yet.
Yeah, neither have I. Arch, do you want to take this?
Didn't the Psychonauts come out like a while ago already?
Yes, but BAFTA's like year-end thing is different than most things. So like they kind of count the end of like the year before. Like they kind of have some overflow on there.
Yeah,
they're a little bit more lenient on that. Arch.
Yeah,
So unpacking there. Can I talk about that one?
Yeah.
Unpacking won EE Game of the Year, which is the publicly voted one, and well deserved. I think Unpacking has won quite a few awards, and it really, really is just an absolute great game. I've actually been doing it in real life as I slowly settle into my room, and it's actually had me thinking about the game more as I unpack my own things. It's one of those games that really sticks with you. So, if I can also steal the next one, they also won Best Narrative, which I think is pretty awesome given it's a game that you just unpack items.
I think that we all played Unpacking, yeah?
Yeah, I did on stream. And it was fantastically fun playing with chat and like talk about like why is this item here and what happened in this part of the life just based on the items you pull out of a box.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Like that, also just like an achievement of sound design and a lot of other things because like every single individual item placed on every single individual possible place you can place it has a different sound effect. It's like there's
just
so
imagine
many like
the poor Foley guy.
so many like tiny little details for like a pretty small game, but man, Wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm going to take this next one, which is 2022's best evolving game, which is a funny name for that category, is the sky that belongs to No Man, No Man's Sky.
I again could talk about No Man's Sky for hours about how tragic the launch was and how much it's come since then, and you know it's almost in the category of like Final Fantasy 14.
I think Belannaer probably could too.
Yeah,
I guess I on the other hand could go like against that opinion, and we could yell at each other for a podcast about this No Man's Sky. I'm not a huge fan of the changes and everything.
Belannaer, you just look mad, but also like in awe. Like it's like the most.
It is kind of that like love-hate relation with that game. Like I love the game, but I also don't like how they do things and how they add things and how everything is so like disjointed. Like there's lots of nice Lego bricks, but they are all mismatched and don't really go together.
It's still a fantastic achievement of community goodwill, I will say, regardless of like the opinions of the actual game itself.
No Man's Sky could have been dead in the water, and no one would have been surprised.
Yeah,
you know, no one would have expected Hello Games to put in the work it did. Everyone would have been like, "Oh, yeah, it's just another case of an overpromised, overhyped game." The fact that it's winning awards now for a best evolved game is just, that alone, you know, is really great in my eyes.
Open up Steam and type in the game name Left Alive. That is a game I was excited for and was smart and didn't pre-order.
It wasn't Left Alive.
No.
Yeah.
Definitely was
wow.
not. And I
Mostly
don't think it's ever
negative.
been on sale. I don't think it's ever been on sale.
26% positive.
Yes.
Yeah, that is quite rough.
That's what I was expecting No Man's Sky to turn into, and it didn't. So I'm proud of them.
Left Alive is better left alone.
Yes. I will take these next two, which
Yep.
are It Takes Two wins Best Original Property and Best Multiplayer. I
haven't played it, but I've heard a lot of really good things. And now that wife has a proper laptop to play games on, we've been meaning to play this for a while.
I keep on asking people if they want to get married and then divorced and then torture a stuffed animal in front of my child, and people just look at me like I'm crazy, and so it's never happened. But I do want to play this someday too.
That might happen live on my stream.
Excellent. Looking forward to it. There's like, I've seen quite a bit of footage of this game, and there's parts of it that look awesome, and there's parts of it that look like terribly written, but I could see how this could win Best Property.
It's certainly been incredibly successful on the awards, awards circuit.
The award that it got that I thought was weird was the Game Awards gave it Best Family Game. This is not a family game. Like, this is not something you want to play with your little kids. But like, if you're an adult with kind of an adult sense of humor, I could definitely see that game being a blast. Belannaer, do you want to take this next one?
Sure. I don't actually know anything about this game. I was just Googling it. So the debut game for 2022 is Toem.
Yeah, this is a game that I saw when it popped up, and I wanted, and I thought about playing it, which is interesting because it's like kind of similar to another game that's later on this list here. But Toem's, it's like it's like a little diorama, and you walk around the little diorama and you take pictures of things, and people tell you to take pictures of things. I like photography games. I'm a big fan of photography games. One of my favorite games ever is Umurangi Generation, which is a photography game. But it's tiny little black and white environments, and you're told to go take a picture of a thing, and that's the game. But it does a lot of environmental storytelling. It's very cutesy. I mean, I'm looking at it on Steam. It's $15 currently on sale, and it's got overwhelmingly positive
It looks incredibly
reviews.
pretty.
So, yeah. Very nice style, very nice look, very nice thing. Toem. Toem. Arch, do you want to take this next one?
All right. Game Beyond Entertainment, Before Your Eyes. I'm not actually familiar with this game. It sounds like it's something that comes with like an ARG or something.
I might actually buy it right now. So I'm familiar with this one. This is one that I was waiting to pop up on sale. And Before Your Eyes is a narrative adventure. So it's like a dialogue-heavy narrative adventure with voice acting and all that, where you are playing a character who's dead. And in this world, once you are passed away, your life flashes before your eyes. That's the whole pitch of the game. And so the game needs permission to use your webcam, which makes me worried that it might break OBS, but that's a different problem. It needs permission to use your webcam. And there's a point in every sequence where if you blink, it ends.
Oh, what?
Yes. So that is Before Your Eyes. It is a very interesting little experimental game, which actually seems to have become very, very successful. But it came out in like April 2021, and it's got like 6,000-7,000 reviews now. Like it did very well.
Crazy positive reviews.
Yeah.
Like you rarely see that many positive reviews on any game.
So you can play it without a webcam, but the optimal way to play it is with the webcam. So like there will be a point where like somebody is talking and it gets very emotional and like you're sitting there and you're tearing up and then this icon appears in the bottom and you're like, oh no, I can't blink. And then you'll inevitably blink because it's a human reaction and then it ends and you move on.
The next game on the list is one that I want to talk about because that's Chicory, A Colorful Tale.
Take it away!
It won Best Family Game. It's an absolutely amazing game. Very vibrant in colors, and you get to do a lot of drawing. It's very art stylish, and yeah, I absolutely loved it when I played it. And now that it's won this, I want to go back and play it again.
I haven't played this game, but I've listened to the soundtrack in its entirety maybe a dozen times. Soundtrack is by Lena Raine, composer of Celeste, the Underworld levels in Minecraft, and a bunch of other games.
Wow, okay. So yeah, definitely very good. And yeah, big congrats to them for winning as well. They were a finalist in Independent Games Festival and the Game Awards. So yeah, winning this one must be amazing for them after being finalists a few times.
I want to shout out the publisher Finji right now because like they're on fire with their last two releases. Like they kind of had they had a miss I think for me with Overland, but like between Chicory, A Colorful Tale and now Tunic, like hats off. They're putting out some good stuff.
That's another one that I need to try at some point.
Yeah, that's a maybe for me, but a maybe that I maybe be interested in.
As a side note, the Chicory has an amazing last picture on the Steam page.
I need to go look at this. What is this? Yep. Yep. That's a butt. All right. Next one is Best Animation goes to Ratchet and Clank: A Rift Apart. I mean, the thing looks like a Pixar movie, so that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, no. That's always going to be a big budget one, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's also one of the only games with actually really good Finnish voice acting. Like usually any kind of Finnish either dialogue or anything is like Google Translate level and horribly done. And this one apparently is like one of the only ones with like amazing Finnish voice acting.
Huh. You should play that in Finnish. Like if you get...
Is that a console exclusive though?
When you get that PlayStation 5 to play Returnal...
yeah,
from the
Housemarque, please send one.
From Housemarque. Then you can sit down and you can get yourself a copy of that and play through it in Finnish, and nobody will know what's going on, and it'll be fine.
You should finish the game.
Oh no! All right.
Also, on the same note, there is actually another award for them as well. Little down the technical achievement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we could just do them two at once. Technical achievement, because like I think that's like particle effects and visual fidelity, right?
Yeah, I mean it looks amazing, so it's very understandable.
Artistic, or no, actually I missed one. Game design, best game design is Inscription.
Another game on my long list of things I need to play. I've had this on my Steam library for ages, and people tell me to play it. It's amazing.
I mean, I have a solution.
Still haven't gotten around.
Stop playing Rune Factory.
Yeah. I mean, in general, stop playing games that take about 150 hours to play through. So you could actually play these amazing small indie games, like 50 of them in a week.
Yeah. But Inscription, like I've watched enough of that game to know that I wouldn't want to play it, but I completely yes, best game design. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like
artistic achievement.
You take this one.
Yeah, the Artful Escape. And so I've had my head buried in the games that I've been playing, like, Stardew Valley and such. So I've not actually looked up the Artful Escape. But
do you want me to pitch the Artful Escape? Because I played it.
Oh, this is the game you played.
Yeah.
That looked amazing.
Yeah, I think that is a good opportunity for you to pitch the game.
So the Artful Escape, I have mixed feelings on. There is one half of it that I adore, and one half of it that I kind of hate. I really, really, really like the visuals. I really, really, really like the music, and I really, really, really like the story. The part where you have to play it's a little unfortunate because it doesn't run super well. And when I say it doesn't run super well, it doesn't run well on any computer. It doesn't matter how much horsepower you have. And the parts that don't run well don't look great. Like there's one whole level that ran at about 10 frames a second on my computer. And the game itself is a very light platformer. And there's almost no challenge to it. There are some like rhythm game segments to it that are a little bit more challenging, but even those aren't particularly challenging. It's like not a game with failure, really. It's a game about the story. So the Artful Escape is a psychedelic metal adventure where you are a like kind of Johnny Cash style small town musician trying to be like your father, who was a very similar kind of figure, and you're about to go to your debut show and you get abducted by aliens because they think that you are going to take them on an intergalactic cyber music spatial metal journey through the cosmos. And so you do it. You go to planets and you play metal and you shred. There is a shred button. The game has a dedicated metal button.
Nice.
And you run through alien landscapes and you jump over massive chasms, shredding on your guitar and ground slamming onto the ground, and big things explode in the background. It's gorgeous to look at. The voice acting is wonderful, and every voice actor in the game is some movie person that you've heard of because it's published by Annapurna as well. And the only record pressing they did of the soundtrack is exclusive to Kickstarter backers, so I'm never going to get it. But it is neat. It's just kind of a pain to play in places. But it's fun. It's worth seeing. If you enjoy space epic metal, it's worth playing.
Yeah, little what I saw you played on stream, and did seem pretty fun, at least from a viewing experience, maybe not from the playing experience.
There is also a sequence in that game where you are going through a snowy planet area outside of a intergalactic recording record label thing that's run by a one-eyed slug that wants to eat you. But that's a different story. You then go through like what looks like Hoth, basically, and there's these giant skeletons of ancient, passed away, massive dinosaurs in the background, and you shred, and as you shred past them, they explode, and lasers and light shows come out of their eyes and mouths, and it looks like my like skull emote that's exploding with a laser, which is kind of amazing. There's like a whole level in that game that's me, and it's great. Mixed feelings, but great game. Also on Game Pass, I think.
So the other winners are ones that we've already touched on. That's technical achievement going to Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and Returnal picking up audio achievement and music. So yeah, good night for Returnal picking up 1, 2, 3, 4 awards there, including best game.
Yeah.
If you're doing like a horror sci-fi game and you win 2 achievements for audio and music on top of being best game and then a performer in leading role, that sounds like such an amazing combo. Just like from like a story atmospheric feel. So, but
that's quite the list of games, and I I love seeing games that like maybe don't get talked about in the public as much getting like these accolades, because it's really nice to see. It's heartwarming for me. But this has been a fantastic episode of the Halcyon Frequency Podcast. ArchPlaysStuff, do you want to tell people who you are and where they can find your work?
Yeah, sure thing. I'm Arch. I play stuff. As the name, as it's written on the box. You can find me at Twitch or twitch.tv/ArchPlaysStuff and on Twitter at twitter.com/ArchPlaysStuff.
And Belannaer.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitch as well, twitch.tv/Belannaer, and I do a lot of building strategy management games. I'm currently on the Rune Factor for a boat, which might last a while. But I also intend to do quite a lot of other things. There seems to be a little lull in games currently coming out that are really interesting, so I'm probably going to look back into a bunch of older titles or some that I've missed there. Like Norco and some of the other games we talked about on this podcast. That Bafta list is like, play this, which might be happening. So yeah, you find me there, and you find my all other things from there as well. So
I was about to call you out on that, because you're just like, Lullin games. I'm like, Norco just released. What are you talking about, Lullin games?
Yeah, well, they released now, but like in next couple months. Like 2 Point Campus was supposed to release next month. Anyways, like, and it got moved to August. So I moved it on my release list because I have like a release list of games of what's interesting to me, and I moved it from like this month to August. And there was nothing in between those in my interesting games list.
Oh
no! I'm just like debating whether I just become a full-time Stardew Valley streamer, because I can literally, like, I've already put 30 hours into that stream, like that save file, and I could easily put another 60 in. So yeah. What do you mean?
You can always branch out and play like Rune Factory and all the other similar games. Like,
what do you mean?
You could literally play that kind of management games for eternity.
That's it. Like, what do you mean there's a dearth of games? I'm still stuck in 2015.
Well, I'm stuck in 2006, because you can find me over at twitch.tv/BlindiRL, where I play way too much Dwarf Fortress. It's actually becoming a problem. And if sometimes I play other things too. I stream 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, and if you can't find me live, then go over to my YouTube channel where VODs and other things go up. And you can follow me on Twitter, because I actually tweet again at BlindiRL, BlindiRL. If you like this podcast and you want to support it and you want to help us out, leave us a review on whatever platform you happen to be watching on, or follow us on the platform that you happen to be watching on, or give us a thumbs up on the platform that you happen to be listening on, because it all helps. It really does. Or leave comments on the YouTube version, which also goes up, which I probably need to, like, I just realized recently I do a really bad job pointing at, but like these also do go up in full on our YouTube channel. Halcyon Frequency. So yeah, you can find all the information for the podcast and all the places where you can listen to it on halcyonfrequency.com. If you would like to listen to it somewhere that it's not available, tell me and I'll make it available there. That's basically how that works. And this has been a good episode of the Halcyon Frequency Podcast, I think, and we will be back next Sunday. Till next week. Now's when we say goodbye. So goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.